There's a common misconception in fitness. If a workout doesn't leave you sore, then it wasn't effective. And I can so clearly recall when I was running my gym and I had really dedicated members who showed up every day, sometimes twice a day. And they claimed not to need a rest day because they weren't sore. But as their coach, I would notice they weren't moving as quickly and their form would break down at lighter weights. And ironically, their progress in gaining strength would actually stall. Chasing the feeling of soreness is not the same as making intentional and sustainable gains. Experienced athletes know soreness isn't necessarily the goal. In fact, constantly pushing yourself to the point of extreme soreness is a sign you're not recovering properly, and eventually, it catches up with you. The most effective training programs build in recovery, manage intensity strategically, and understand that progress happens during rest, not just during the work. Business owners fall into the same trap. If you're not exhausted, stressed, and running on fumes, it must mean you're not working hard enough, right? Wrong. My guest today coaches both Olympic athletes and high performing entrepreneurs, and his message is clear. Sustainable high performance requires strategic recovery, not relentless soreness. But before we get to chatting, every episode kicks off with our listener question in a segment called Hey Coach. So, what would you ask if you had a business coach in your back pocket? Submit your question to Leslie at thefitnessofbusiness.com. Hey Coach, I logically understand that rest is important, but I feel really guilty every time I'm not working. How do I actually build recovery into my business without feeling like I'm being lazy or losing my competitive edge? Well, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am so excited to talk to you about this. It's as if what you do is like the absolute perfect branding for my podcast. So I appreciate you being on the show.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Leslie.
Yes, well, I would love to hear about your background. I think it's really fascinating how you got to be doing what you're currently doing today.
Yeah, of course, I can start off with a bit of background about myself. Um, I actually started as a police officer when I was 20 years old, while simultaneously being a field hockey coach for national and Olympic teams. And the police force gave me like ample room to travel for my coaching work, and I really loved the combination of working as a police officer while simultaneously being a coach. After 4 years, I transitioned into the ambulance services, which I did for another two. And then I moved within the Netherlands to another part, and I had to find a job. And I ended up at Randstad, the HR consulting company, where I started working as an HR consultant. And after 2 years, I thought, you know, I can do this myself. So I started an HR consultancy firm, which quickly grew to 5 employees and a nice office in the city center of The Hague. Um, so, that's how my entrepreneurial journey started. And simultaneously, in parallel, I've always had my sports coaching career. I played field hockey until I was around 18 years old, and then I became a coach. I loved working with individuals and with teams, and quickly went into international teams in Germany, Belgium, and Austria. And then during those sports coaching years, I slowly transitioned into the mental performance aspect, and also transitioned into other sports such as squash, and now bobsleigh.
Mhm.
So currently, I'm the mental coach for a top 100 squash player and for the Dutch national bobsleigh team.
And what is the exciting news that you shared with me before we started recording?
Yeah, so a couple of days ago, the Dutch national bobsleigh team, they qualified for the 2026 Olympics, which will be happening in about a month.
It's incredible.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So so I realize this is like a major fast forward, but I am so curious, like between now and the Olympics, like what kind of work do you do? Because I have to imagine, the physical side of things, they're pretty much ready to go. So at this ramp up period, what does your work with them look like?
Leslie, it has been a long preparation period. So the season of bobsleigh starts in November, and then it goes until February, and then there are the Olympics. But before November, uh, we had the entire summer of dry practice. Like the off-season part, it's the part where they work really hard on their physical abilities, but also with me on, okay, so how are we feeling right now in this off season? What can we do to improve your mental performance,
Mhm,
so that you will be more resilient when the season comes?
mhm,
Now is so upcoming weekend they have the last regular race of the season, and then it's just a couple of weeks just to reset and prepare for the Olympics, and then they're off. I think it's like 19 February. They have the first practices and the
mhm.
races. So in between, I'm available to just talk to the guys and see, okay, how are you feeling right now? What is going well? How can we boost that? How can we do more of that? What is not going well? What's not working well? And what can we do about that?
Yeah. So, are the things that they sort of divulge to you that are going well or are not going well, are they, like, shared among the team, or is everybody a little bit different in their struggles and their strengths?
Um, so that's a good question actually, because I always say like I coach the person as a whole, not just the athlete.
Mhm.
Meaning that in this sport, the guys and girls, they also work. Like our pilot, he's a lawyer in his off season. Yeah, so he needs to do his work in the off season while preparing for the season. Um, so I think that's a nice example because I work with the person as a whole, meaning that 80% of the time I'm talking about things that are maybe not sports related, but have a
Yeah.
significant influence on their sport performance. You can imagine that when they are on season, they're 3 months away from family, friends,
Mm.
partners, children.
Yeah.
They are stuck with each other in a house. How do you deal with it? How do you cope with not seeing your partner for such a long time while
Mhm.
also trying to perform? Um, so I'm talking to these guys a lot about things outside of sports.
Yeah.
And that's where the differences between the athletes are, because one has a partner, the other one doesn't have a partner.
Mhm.
So that's where the differences in topics that we discuss. Then there are also sports related topics that we discuss, and generally, they're about the same things. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so I mean, I have to imagine, to the viewer, to the person just watching the Olympics, like, well, obviously we don't see all of the practices leading up to it and all of the behind the scenes. And I know, like, I certainly fall into the camp of, well, I assume that all of their training is a physical nature, but it's like it's so important to understand. Not that I can make this comparison in any way, but I played high school tennis and I was nowhere near Olympic level. But I recognize, especially in hindsight, the mental game of tennis and the importance of it. And as soon as I would start to get in my head, and it could have something to do with, something that happened in biology class and nothing to
Mm,
do with the sport at all, but it was very hard for me, if I didn't have any tools in place, which at the time I really didn't, to get my head back into the game.
absolutely. I think it's something from maybe last 10 years where we focus more on the mental aspect of sports.
Mhm.
Um, I think, as an example, my wife, I always give this example because when she was 14, she was the Dutch national champion in swimming.
Hmm.
Um, she won like over 200 medals.
Wow.
But if you would ask her, like, were you happy? I mean, that's not a definite yes. And I think that in the last 10 years, there have been many high performance athletes that um, that have won matches, have won races, but might not be happy at the same time. That's really
Mhm.
something else.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the mental aspect is very important, and it really takes practice.
Yeah.
It's really an investment.
Yeah. So how okay, now I'm gonna work backwards a little bit. So, getting to the level where you are in working with, an Olympic team, that doesn't just happen. That's not just a break that happens. So, like, how did you get to the point where there was an Olympic team that said, "I we need what Paul does?"
Mm, that's a very good question, and I'm going to connect that question to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Um, because um, when the first time I actually worked with an international field hockey team, it was Düsseldorf in Germany. Düsseldorf, the first men's team,
Mm.
um, and they didn't came to me. I
Mm.
reached out to them,
Oh,
and I was really like cold calling
yeah.
different clubs in Europe just to say like, "This is who I am. This is my resume. I want to work with you." And this is the entrepreneurial mindset, but just focus on the task, like get clients, reach out to them, make sure that that you are top of mind until one club says, okay, yeah, let's try this. um so that was the first time I went international, and from there on it's easier to go to other clubs, to Olympic teams. Um, in this case, with the Dutch national bobsleigh team, I also reached out to them. They are a really small federation, like really small. They got like 40 members. Um, it's a really small club.
Yeah.
So the lines were short. I was
Mm.
talking to the president of the federation about this, and I was pitching the idea like, okay, next year Olympics are coming up. This is
Yeah.
what I do. Would you be interested in working with me? And they just discussed it internally. I had another meeting with the head coach, and he said, "Okay, let's try this."
Hmm.
It was also the pilot who said, "Okay, like I want to do everything to go to the Olympics," because he's a relatively new pilot. He's very talented, but he's doing this a lot shorter than other pilots in the field. So he just wants to do everything, put everything in place to get there,
Yeah.
and it paid off.
Yeah. So, if I can almost, like, s summarize the comparison between, how you approached this particular position and entrepreneurship in general, it's like you have to believe in your offer. You have to accept that most people will say no and keep going anyway, and the timing has to be right for someone to be ready to sign up or purchase or get bought in, whatever that looks like. And, that piece of it is somewhat out of your control, but um it's the perseverance and the grit.
Absolutely. It's absolutely grit. If you don't have the grit, it's going to be challenging to get new clients unless you have something like really amazing that nobody else has, and people will come to you. But
Yeah.
generally, when you're trying to establish a coaching practice, or you are trying to open a new shop, it really takes effort, determination, um, resilience, being able to cope with no,
Hmm.
to get where you want to be ultimately.
Which is exactly why the path to entrepreneurship has so many parallels with the path to professional or Olympic athletes. So, um, I would love to hear more about your MBA studies in regards to what you've discovered about entrepreneurs. Maybe I
Yeah,
should take some notes.
yeah. um, in 2021, I started my MBA at Warwick Business School. And this was about the time where I thought, like, hey, these people that are around me right now, those executives and managers, they might benefit from my performance coaching services.
Hmm.
And this is really an entrepreneurial thing, like seeing opportunities, right?
Yes.
I was in this cohort with 300 other people that were all in managerial positions, and I thought, these guys, they need to perform every day. Maybe they can benefit from my coaching services.
Hmm.
So that's where I started to do this performance coaching in the business environment. Then 1.5 years later, my MBA dissertation started, and I thought, okay, what am I going to research? What I'm going to write about? Um, and I love entrepreneurship, so I thought, okay, I'm going to write about entrepreneurship. So I did a qualitative study. I interviewed 29 entrepreneurs about um, about their entrepreneurial journey. Uh, started? How did they start their company?
Yeah.
And one of the I think it's an important part of the entrepreneurial process is the pre-entry process before we actually start the company. What is happening there? And in this process, according to research, um, this pre-entry process has like 22 steps. Things like administrative steps, business validation steps, and legal steps. Um, things like discussing the business opportunity, consulting an expert, writing a business plan, testing demand, collecting feedback. So I
Yep.
researched this part. And one of the most important things my research found was that who entrepreneurs talk to. Who do entrepreneurs talk to, and what environments have what consequences? For
Hmm.
example, like many many entrepreneurs had entrepreneurial parents, and they might have been in an environment that fostered entrepreneurship. And the research also found that those with entrepreneurial parents performed less steps in that pre-entry process, um, maybe because they needed less business opportunity validation because they were
Hmm.
already in an environment that fostered that entrepreneurship. Uh, on the other hand, those without entrepreneurial parents discussed the business opportunity with a partner instead of with their parents, and they
Hmm.
performed more steps to validate their business idea before they started the company.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's really important in which environment you are.
Yeah.
Um, it influences so much on the steps and also the speed of which you are going to do things.
Hmm. That is so interesting. So did you and maybe this was or was not part of your research or the outcomes, but can you speak to which environment tended to produce more successful businesses or businesses with more longevity, or is can you make those comparisons?
Well, to be honest, I can't because this was a short study. I interviewed different entrepreneurs that started a company in the last 5 years. Um, there was another interesting finding that I want to share with you. Um, and it's about when the entrepreneur discussed the business idea. Because I said to you, as an entrepreneur, you see opportunities every day. I see opportunities every day. Yes, it's funny. My wife and I were pregnant right now, and I asked her like, "What?"
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I asked her like, "What characteristics do you want our son to have that's from me?" And she's like, "I think the way that you see opportunities and how creative you are, she
No.
wants him to have that." I think that's really something from an entrepreneur seeing opportunities. So
Yes.
I asked these entrepreneurs like, before you started this company, how many business ideas did you have? And the amount of times that I've heard hundreds,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like every entrepreneur says, like so many ideas. Every day I get like ideas, I see opportunities. And the funny thing is, the key finding is like when they discuss the business idea.
Mm,
Although the average of all entrepreneurs was 9 months, like
mm.
they discussed the business idea 9 months after they had the idea. The most given answer was actually the same day.
I
So
believe
like
that.
there's this entrepreneur that thinks, I see an opportunity, I have this business idea, I'm going to discuss that the same day with either my entrepreneurial parents or with my partner. And I'll tell you why I think this is interesting, Leslie, because this discussing this the same day provides immediate feedback.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what I uh-huh.
immediate feedback is one of the key things that you need to be in flow.
Mm,
To be in flow in your life is having immediate feedback. I think that's so important.
yeah. Yes, I can speak from experience. Like, every few days, I think, "Oh, well, what if I added this little component to my business? And I'm gonna make a phone call today, and I'm gonna talk to this person about it." And I've actually had to slow myself down and stop before I actually just keep making those phone calls because for me, and this is just my personal experience, because that happens so frequently, it can distract me from staying on course.
Mm.
And and I think just because I've been an entrepreneur for so many years, I now know how to exhibit a little bit more, discernment when it comes to, "Okay, I'm ready to just, like, go all in on this next thing," because everything takes time and, data and all of that, but it's so true. I mean, I surround myself with entrepreneurs all the time, and I love the energy in the room of, "Have you thought of this?" And, "Oh, what if you considered this? And I did it this way." And, like, to me, that's really exciting slash can be overwhelming.
Yes, absolutely. It's a pitfall. It can be a pitfall. You need to be careful not to overdo it. Um,
Yes.
and I have systems in place for this. My wife knows, like if she sees me like this, she's gonna say, "Paul, just stop for a minute.
Yeah.
uh,
Stop.
Maybe park this idea and think about it tomorrow." Like, and that moment could be enough to just like put you back on the ground, both feet on the ground,
Yes.
and maintain focus on maybe what you were doing.
Right. That's so true. It doesn't take long. And then I think, if this idea is still just as exciting to me tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, okay, then it's probably worth pursuing or at least seeing it through to some degree. But oftentimes it's not that they're bad ideas. It's just like, no, no, this is more of a distraction,
Yeah,
or something to at least sort of table for the time being.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like making the comparison to an athlete. You're not as a especially as an Olympic level athlete, they don't walk into their very first practice and say, "Well, after today, I'm ready for the Olympics."
No,
But
absolutely.
maybe
Yeah.
they do.
Some do, some
Maybe
do,
maybe
maybe,
they
yeah.
do, but they shouldn't. So, okay, so how do you bring what you discovered through your dissertation, research, and conversations, how do you bring that to your own business today, outside of having your wife saying, "Hold on, put a put a pin in that and come back to it." And what components of that do you bring into your the mental training with your athletes?
Okay. So that's a very good question. And the answer is actually the same. Because I talk about flow. I mentioned flow a couple of minutes ago. Flow is from the Hungarian American psychologist Mihaly. Um, he's written a lot about this. Um, I'm always talking about being in flow. And just for the listener, what is being in flow? Being in flow is being so focused on what you are doing that everything else just fades away. It feels natural, engaging. You are doing it because it feels good to do, not because of external rewards. Time flies, you are fully focused on the task. As an example, if you're a book lover and in the afternoon you open a book and it's such a great book, you are fully absorbed in the book and you lose track of time. You read for the enjoyment of the activity itself, then you are in flow. And why do we want to be in flow? Because when you are in flow, you're one, like happy, right? But also we are performing better if we are in flow. So I do this both with uh, my clients in the business environment. I do this also with athletes. We talk about being in flow. Um, so how do I, with my clients, create this flow? And this again, this is the same between athletes and entrepreneurs. It's one, clear goals. And athletes are better in this than entrepreneurs. Because for athletes, there are clear goals. Next time we go down the track, we should have this start time, we should do that, we should do this. We can write it down, quantify it, really clear goals.
Yep.
For entrepreneurs, this is more challenging.
Mhm.
Uh, they want to be successful. They want to grow the business. They want to grow revenue.
Right.
Okay, like specify it.
Yes.
Like, what is growing the business? What does that mean to you?
Yep.
Growing the business. Does that mean growing the business that your personal brand is growing, or does that mean more money in your bank account? And if that
Yep.
means more money in your bank account, how much more? So clear goals. They need to
Yep.
be realistic. Everybody talks about smart goals.
Mhm.
Yeah, very well known, but they should be realistic. I like micro goals, small steps that I can work to, and then tick off and then go on to the next goal just to keep focused. Um,
Same. Same, same, same.
and then
And it builds confidence. I'll just say that.
absolutely,
Yeah.
every time you tick off that small goal, you feel confident. You get a
Yes.
boost. Um, Two, like I said, immediate feedback. To be in flow, we need immediate feedback. And that's why, as an entrepreneur, if you have an idea, or as a nation entrepreneur, not even an entrepreneur, just if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, if you have a business idea, discuss it the same day. Get
Mm.
that feedback. And not from one person, like from multiple people.
Yeah.
I think what's very important, both in the business environment and in sports, is deep, uninterrupted concentration.
Mm.
We are distracted in
Mhm.
2026.
No.
Oh man. I
Yes.
mean,
And it's
I
only
mean,
getting worse.
my phone 2 months ago, my my screen time was like 7 hours. Leslie, 7 hours. I'm not kidding. 7 hours, and I think that's even on the low side.
Well, no judgment here because when my screen time notification pops up on Sundays, I actually delete it so I don't need to know. So there you
We are
go.
so distracted.
Yeah.
And recently I've decided to put my phone in the kitchen outside my office.
Hmm.
And I also decided to delete my Instagram app, my TikTok app, my LinkedIn app, and to turn off my notifications for everything except phone.
Yeah.
So if you call me, I will pick up. If you send me a WhatsApp message or a text message, I will only see it when I actively go into the app.
Yeah.
And my screen time last week was like 53 minutes.
Wow. That's
I just
amazing.
got back 7 hours per day in my life. No, but it's
Holy
I you
cow.
know
Yeah, that's
I
huge.
I'm you know I'm laughing about this, but we are so quickly distracted. So putting your phone in another room when you want to concentrate is like a really good idea. Setting your Teams, your Microsoft Teams on in a meeting
Yeah.
just to not be disturbed by your colleagues. You need to create an environment that allows you to concentrate.
Yeah.
And those athletes, they do the same.
Mhm.
When they have practice 4 hours, their phone is nowhere near them.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they need to focus, they have their headphones on and maybe some calming music. They're doing breathing exercises. They are doing visualization exercises. They are not distracted.
Yeah.
Um, so if we're talking about being in flow, both in the business environment and in sports, this is very important.
Yeah.
Um, and then so this also covers like the structured environments, ensuring that you have an environment that supports being in flow.
Yeah.
And then the last one is really intrinsic motivation. To be in flow, you need to be intrinsically motivated, not doing it for external rewards.
Yeah.
Especially
Absolutely.
because we put so much time in what we do. An athlete, you know, he wakes up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, he goes to sleep at 11 o'clock in the evening, and in between, his life exists of
Mhm.
being a high performing athlete. He's
Mhm.
investing so much time. As an entrepreneur, your life probably is not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You wake up starting the day with thinking about something business related, and you end your day with something business related.
Yep.
That's just the life of an entrepreneur. You put in so much effort, time, energy, financial, like money,
Mhm.
that you really need to be intrinsically motivated to do this.
Yeah. Quick pause. I was that kid in school whose notes everyone wanted to borrow before the test. Color coded, organized, the whole deal. I'm still doing it, but now for entrepreneurship instead of AP Bio. My Substack is basically me sharing my notes with you. The podcast gives you the big ideas. My Substack shows you how to implement them. Step by step guides, templates, and real stories from the trenches. Subscribe for free at leslieboyce.substack.com. That's LESLIEBOYCE. And let's take this from theory into practice. Because knowing you should hit the gym and actually getting there to do the reps are two very different things. In thinking about the listener's question, and for an athlete when they're at a 4-hour practice, it makes sense that they can't be distracted because physically they're being asked to, perform and show up. But for an entrepreneur, because it takes that intrinsic motivation to, silence all your distractions or go into a quiet space. But what about the fear of, well, but what if I get that one call, that someone's ready to purchase or sign up or whatever, and if I don't answer, then they're gonna move on to someone else. The fear of I guess the fear of missing out or the scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Uh, I think that's a good question. Um, I also had this in the past, and that was the reason why I was checking my email on Saturdays and Sundays. Like, what if somebody accepted my offer or wanted to receive an offer? The truth is, even if you receive an email in the morning with an interesting message, they would probably also be okay with receiving a reply in the afternoon.
Mhm. Right.
Um, when I send an email, I don't expect an immediate response. So, meaning that you don't have to be on your phone and reply to me immediately. I'm very okay with waiting a couple of hours, even, I live in Italy, even a week. I'm not saying that's normal in the United States or in the UK, but depending on the environment where you're in, the country you live in, I can wait,
Mhm.
and that doesn't mean that I'm going to a competitor.
Yeah. Right. And I think, like, maybe all it takes is somebody giving you or, the business owner permission to not have to reply right away and say, "No, it really is okay." And
Yeah,
and if that person is going to go to your competitor within an hour, they were maybe they weren't that serious about you specifically, or, they're
could
just
be.
looking for the quickest fix, or what, who knows? But um I think just knowing that it really is okay, because I happen to think, because I'm the type of person, like, I will block out time and I just, like, put my head down and I work, and that is definitely how I work best. Um, and I think that if I were to get distracted by replying to an email, it's actually going to be more detrimental to me down the road, because I didn't get to complete what I was working on and the goals that I had set, for the day. And it kind of is a slippery slope.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yes.
So, have you ever gotten pushback from athletes that you've worked with that feel like, all I need to worry about is my physical performance? Like, get out of here with that woo-woo mental stuff. That's a sweeping generalization.
No, no, no. It's actually a good question because um, often when I know that I'm going to introduce certain woo-woo tools, I actually say to my client, like, listen, I'm a very down-to-earth guy. And everything I do, this is written on my website, my LinkedIn, and I say this at the start of every engagement. Everything we do is evidence-based. It's grounded in research, in theory. Um, so I'm not making things up. I haven't uh, designed these tools. I've learned about these tools. I've implemented them. I work with clients that use them, and generally they work.
Mhm,
Um, and and this is even as simple as breathing techniques. Like, there are certain athletes that also like things like breathing techniques, meditation. Um, they will push back
mhm,
for this. And however, like, research has shown that breathing techniques have certain benefits. Meditation has certain benefits. Um, so I really try to um, get the athlete to see the benefits and at least try it for a certain of time, like an
mhm.
amount of time, of which I know that if he does that for that time frame, he will discover the benefits or not, but then at least we've tried.
Yeah, yep. Right. Do you get any more or less pushback from high-performing entrepreneurs?
Um, to be honest,
Mm.
less, yes, because depending on the sports where you're in, you're always working with certain people,
Mhm.
like bobsleigh. it's these guys are. I'm sorry for talking metric. These guys are 2 meters, so they're like really tall. They weigh over 100 kilos. They're really big. They go to the gym every day. These are certain types of people. Um, and mental coaching is not something very common in this sport. Meaning that if I want to introduce something, it always needs to be on like a basis like, let's try this. Let's just see.
Right.
We've never done this. You've never done this. Just let's try it.
Yeah.
People in the business environment, they are more open to this from my
Mhm.
experience. Yeah. So if I say like, all right, maybe do this breathing technique right before a presentation.
Yeah.
And the reason I want you to try this is because it gives these benefits.
Mhm.
And if you want to read about it, here's a journal article.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific stories about, an entrepreneur that you've worked with where they have implemented, some of the tools that you've done with them and seen a major difference, or I don't know, just something that they've said, "Oh wow, I really didn't expect that to work in this way, but it really did."
The things I discuss with either athletes or with entrepreneurs are always things to increase self-awareness.
Mm,
When people ask what I do, I always say like, I ask a lot of questions. I just ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot
same.
of questions just to ensure that you create self-awareness. What is
Mm,
happening inside you, both in your mind, but
mhm,
also with your body. What is happening? Because often we are not aware of what is happening.
mhm.
Like in cognitive behavioral therapy, these are we have these automatic thoughts that go into our head, and we are not aware of these thoughts, but they influence how we either feel or how my body responds or how my behavior is, but we're not aware of that. So I need to ask questions to make these people aware of that, to
Yeah,
make my clients aware of that. um so we do a lot of things. We implement a lot of tools to ensure that people are more aware, more self-aware. And then like the biggest compliment what you can get is that I think a couple of weeks ago, I was on a call with somebody and he said to me, like, I had this moment where I thought this, which was an unhelpful thought, but I was actually aware of me thinking that. And I
and
thought,
then
okay, wait, I'm thinking this.
huh,
And then I can work with that.
yeah,
So the practices that we did, the tools that we worked with, it allowed him to be aware of unhelpful thoughts and actually work with them instead of letting the thought work him and give him certain emotions that
yeah,
aren't helpful.
yeah. Oh, I love that. It's like you can reclaim the power in in a lot of situations, in situations where it's your mind that is so conditioned to tell you one thing or react in one way, in, feeling these disempowering thoughts. I'm laughing because we're actually doing this program with my daughter who's she's almost 5, and she really struggles with perfectionism and getting very hard on herself. And so the program has actually taught her to recognize the difference between empowering and disempowering thoughts, which is like a wild concept at such a young age, yet just speaks to how universal it is to feel those things and how early it can start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think here's where there's a big difference between high performing athletes and even in general non-athletes.
Mm,
um, because athletes, they do a lot of measuring. We gather as much as data as possible. And you can say, okay, Paul, businesses also collect a ton of data. Yes, that's true. However, the amount of psychometric testing
Mm.
is significantly more in sports compared to
Mm.
the business environment. Like
Yeah.
we do tests, we have tests for how do I feel right now? How high is my cognitive anxiety? How high is my somatic anxiety?
Mm.
Um, how do I rate my positivity right now? And how do these numbers compare between training and matches? How do these numbers compare between off season and on season? And how do they compare to last month? What
Yeah.
did we do differently? What worked? What didn't work? What tools should we implement to foster a better flow experience or to lower somatic anxiety? Um, so I love to do this also with the people outside sports I work with. Just measure how do we feel. Otherwise, like you can wake up and feel like I'm feeling down today,
Mm.
but you have no idea why. And
Mhm.
if you start testing these things, measuring these things, you can
Yeah.
identify it and you can do something about it. You can
Yeah.
work with that data.
Yeah.
Um, so I've and this is creating awareness. If you do like say, let's say a perma test, it measures your general well-being across 5 aspects. If you get a low rating for, let's say, relationships, you have identified why your well-being might not be as good as you want it to be,
Yeah.
and you can do something about it because you know what's hurting at that moment.
Yep. Sure. You mentioned to me in a previous conversation and in some of the, back and forth exchanges we had prior to recording that it's important that you practice what you preach for yourself. So I would love to know how that works and where you struggle to implement some of the tools that you use to work with your clients.
Okay. That I love that question. And I'm a firm believer that you need to practice what you preach. Um, I do meditation. That's one thing. I do meditation. I do things that have in research have shown to improve your well-being, such as a 3 good things journal. So at the end
Mm.
of the day, I write down 3 things that brought me positivity in my day, that made me happy. I reflect on that, and I've been doing this for a year now, and it has really improved my mental well-being. Um, when I do sports myself, because I, I'm not a bobslayer. I've never been in a bobsleigh, and please don't ask me to go inside a bobsleigh. So,
Oh
but I
God,
do
no.
other sports, and when I do those sports, I implement the same techniques, the same breathing techniques, the same focusing techniques to ensure that I get the best results.
Yeah.
However, like you said, I also might struggle with practicing what I preach, and um, I think my main struggle is doing nothing. That's
Mm.
challenging. Like, because, we're talking about recovery and recovery as a performance strategy. Doing nothing is recovering. It's
Yeah.
charging your battery, it's charging your motivation. But doing nothing is also quite challenging. And it really comes back to being self-aware, like being aware that you're doing too much. Because when you are aware, you can, like I said, you can work with that.
Yeah.
So how can you ensure that you take enough rest, that you stop working? And that's where, my environment comes in, my wife comes in, and she's like, when I'm working after 5 p.m., she's like, Paul, are you aware that you're still behind the laptop? You want to keep working or you want to stop? She doesn't tell me to stop. She just
Yeah.
like asks me, do you want to keep working? Which is fine. Or do you want to stop? Which is also fine.
Yeah.
Doing nothing is it's really it's really challenging. Yeah.
Well, what is doing nothing? Like, is doing nothing reading a book for pleasure? Is it sitting staring into space and having no stimulation? Like, or is it just whatever feels like enough of a disconnect for the individual person or for you?
I really think this is very personal. For
Mhm.
me, it's a disconnect. It's a disconnect from the focus I have on my coaching practice, um, which means that if I go outside for a 20-minute walk in the southern Italian sun,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
doing nothing.
you can stop rubbing it in now.
But it's also like laying on bed and just watching a television show.
Mhm.
Um, it's also doing nothing. Reading a
Mm,
book that is not work related, because I read a lot of books, and during the day I also read work related books.
yeah.
Like doing nothing might also be reading a spy novel, which I
Mm,
love,
mhm.
or listening to country music, which I also love. So
And is a rather unexpected, uh, thing. It it's probably not, well, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I cannot imagine it is a super common genre of music playing in the Southern Italian region.
not at all. Not even in Europe.
Not
Not
even
even in Europe. The lovely thing is that I just happen to like country, all types of country, like old country, but also like modern pop country.
mm,
And I play it so often that even my wife starts to lip sync certain country songs,
mm.
and our son, who is still in the belly, he's also replying to that type of music, responding to that type of music. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, this is very, I can relate to that because I'm a big musical theater nerd, like, that's pretty much what I listen to all the time, and when I was in labor, and, you're in labor for a bazillion hours, at least what feels
yeah.
like a bazillion hours, and I asked to have Broadway show tunes playing while I was in labor, and the doctor came in to deliver the baby, and she goes, "Is this Hamilton?" I said, "Yeah, it is, okay?" So, I can appreciate, we like what we
Yeah,
like, and the
yeah,
and the
that's
baby
absolutely
will come
true.
out either liking it or having its own opinions.
Yeah, true. Yeah. If there's one thing that I really want to share with entrepreneurs, is like, start measuring your life and your well-being.
Mm,
Start identifying uh, things that make you happy. And from a solution coaching perspective, I would also then say, how can you do more of that?
mm,
Because we're constantly thinking about negative aspects or things that are not going well in our life, and how can we improve that. It's also very important to think about what is going well, what
yeah,
is making me happy, what is bringing me positivity, and how can I do more of that.
yeah. No, I love that, and thank you for bringing that up because I think that as I've mentioned, earlier, it's so easy for us as entrepreneurs to overcomplicate everything and think that it needs to be some complex solution or, this framework or whatever, but that you're suggesting it can start as simply as identify the things that make you feel happy and do more of them. It's like that's why does it have to be more complicated than that?
Absolutely. And as an example, every New Year people talk about New Year's resolution. What am I going to do better next year? And I asked my wife at New Year's Eve, like, let's switch this up. What went well in 2025 that you are going to do more in 2026?
Yeah.
And I think that's a different perspective. It works from like a positivity standpoint. What is working well, and how can we do more of that?
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Of course.
Well, if people want to connect with you, you are on LinkedIn and you have your website, and I will link everything in the show's notes. And you also mentioned that you're looking to start a Substack newsletter in soon, February?
Yeah, somewhere in February. Yes, yes,
Yep.
because um, you know, there are so many tools out there that people can implement themselves. And I just want to share that. I want to like bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. I want to,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm just specifying that. Just
Okay, good. Not
is
twice a
this
week. I
is
got
this
it.
twice a week or once every 2 weeks, right?
Why is that so confusing? It is
I don't
the
know.
worst part of the English language.
Absolutely. So, like every 2 weeks, they get like a very short and practical newsletter about, okay, this is the topic. Why is it important, and what influence can it have on your life and your performance, and how can you implement it, um, just to improve your own performance, improve your mental well-being. So we're launching that somewhere in February. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we start every show with our "Hey Coach" question, and I end every show where I have a guest by asking, well, now, if you've actually listened to my episodes, you're gonna have the spoiler alert, but, I'm gonna ask you anyway. If since we talk about how running a business is basically like a workout, what is one business strength or habit you wish you had developed earlier in your career?
I think slowing down, recovery, recovery, recovery. We can't just simply keep pushing, um, because often I thought that I could push through stress without consequences. And that's
Mhm,
just not the case. Stress is going to impact your mental health, and not only your mental health, also people around you.
mhm.
Um, it's not just you who's experiencing your mental health, also your loved ones, your colleagues, the people around you. It has such a big impact on your life, and therefore using recovery as a, you know to perform,
Yeah,
as a performance strategy is so important.
yeah,
Slowing down, focus on getting enough sleep, um measuring your life. What makes me happy? Am I doing what makes me happy? And how can I do more of that? And if I'm doing things that are not making me happy, how could I do less of that?
yeah, yeah. I love that. Well, thank you, and thank you for being here and chatting with us, and such interesting stuff. I feel like we could talk for many more hours, but
Likewise,
look,
yeah.
at a certain point, I suppose we have to call it quits. Um, but for the listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, leave a review, subscribe, share, and tune in next time on the Fitness of Business. We'll see you next time.